Alright, so this video is meant to explain the purpose and structure of the new Constitution, and by kind of explaining what the problems were with the original Constitution. So number one is disorganization. There's lots of parts that, and mind you, this was written in late 2018, August 16th of 2018, I believe. And it's currently January 16th of 2023. So after, years of amendments that kind of backtrack each other or overrule certain parts of the original text or undo things or add things back, like there's literally an amendment to do something, an amendment to undo that thing, and then an amendment to undo that undoing. So, or something like that. I'm sure that's in there. I don't know for sure, but there's just lots of like almost none of the original text, like before any of the amendments, is actually still active, which makes it a very difficult document to read and understand, and of course apply. Like there's like 10 different methods of determining farmers board nominees that are listed out in there that like go back and overrule each other. There's the removal of permanent seats and then the addition of permanent seats. There's whole council positions that were added and then scrapped. There's the farmers award was taken out at some point and then put back in. There's just lots of, it's impossible really to keep track of what the actual system is by reading that text. So that's number one. We wanted to create a document that actually covers what we're actually doing in a more readable, precise manner. And then along with that are some unresolved issues. Because there's so many backtracks and so many overrulings and backtracks and attempts to fit stuff in, there are some unresolved issues. For example, what do we do if a permanent council member wants to resign to a termed spot, which is something they're technically allowed to do, but there's no prescription in the old Constitution for what actually has to happen in that case, because there's only 2 term spots per neighborhood. So if they want to take one of those spots, but there's already 2 people there, what happens? Stuff like that. Or if a termed member wants to switch neighborhoods, what do we do? So in part, we've been I don't want to say making things up, but we've been doing a lot of inferring on what actually is supposed to happen in specific cases. So we want to get rid of that. And both of these issues, parts of both of these issues are caused by one fundamental issue of the original Constitution, is that it was not made for a system with elections in more than one neighborhood. As soon as we tried to add elections for Friendly Farmers Jr. and then the next 3 neighborhoods, it all kind of fell apart. Like imagine you're writing, basically when I was writing the original Constitution, I wrote it for one neighborhood. I never envisioned that it would have to apply to multiple. So a lot of the problems arise from the fact that we created an amendment to add a neighborhood and add elections to that neighborhood and put a bunch of duct tape over the parts of that broke previous parts, which is where a lot of the disorganization came from and the unresolved issues. And number 4, this is another one of those things that contributes to the disorganization and unresolved issues, is the existence of permanent council members, which did not originally exist. Actually, I can tell you about the old Constitution. The original Constitution was fairly simple, and like I said, it was only for one neighborhood. So you had the head seat, which actually was like a permanent council member, but that was me. And then we had 6 elected members. And every 2 weeks, it would be one of the elected members' uh, turn for election, basically. And it would keep hopping uh, between the seats in a circular fashion. But over time, we wanted some members to be permanent. We wanted there to be multiple neighborhoods. We wanted the size of the council to change based on how many neighbors we have. And so this is what we're left with. Here, hold on. We currently have, where there's 6 permanent members, and then there's 2 elected members per neighborhood. And then once per month, one of the members is up for election in each neighborhood, which is a pretty good system. And originally, we just kind of wanted to rewrite the Constitution so that it outlined this system in a more clear way. So we could take this opportunity to resolve, the disorganization, the fact that it's not made for a multi-hood, and all unresolved issues. We had a chance to fix those things, but we also decided to take the opportunity to strengthen the system and make it a little bit more resilient. So now we're going to talk about some of the changes that the new system implements. And the biggest one is ranks. So the new system has this idea of ranks, and your rank most importantly defines your term length. So instead of every term council member having a 2-month term, you can have a varying term depending on your rank. So when you first start out as council, you start at rank 1 and you have a 1-month term, which is pretty short. It's like you get elected and then you have 3 weeks before your next election starts, which is a pretty quick turnover. But it's good because it's like a trial period, basically. You don't have to commit to 2 months. And then if you go up for election again and you win, then you become rank 2, which is where you get your, default 2-month term. If you win again, you become rank 3 with a 3-month term. If you win again, then you have an opportunity to become rank 4, and we'll talk about that, which is a 4-month term. And then you have an opportunity, if you win again, to become a permanent member, and then you can also become a head seat, but there's, more to that. So these are kind of like the automatic ranks that you can earn just by winning multiple times. And there's still only two term seats per neighborhood, but the members holding those seats will have differing term lengths depending on basically their tenure, how long they've been in council. So if you've been in council for a while, you get a 3-month term versus someone who's new would get a 1-month term. Other than that, there's no difference between these 3 ranks here. Now, like I said, there's also this rank 4. And this rank 4 is 4 months, but it's meant to be closer to a permanent member than the other 3. The other 3 ranks. So these first 3 ranks are called the outer council, and these are called the inner council. So this guy, if you get to rank 4, you're still you're in one of the 2 termed seats of your neighborhood. You serve a 4-month term and you have to be reelected again, but you have specific powers and abilities that are similar to the permanent and head seats. The goal of this is to bridge the gap between being termed and being permanent. So it can be, again, like a trial period of being permanent, but also to make it more fair. Because currently, and still in the new system, once there's a certain number of permanent seats, there cannot be any more. So if someone new who's really good comes along, they're stuck in this 2-month tedious or repetitive term system. Whereas now they can get up to 4 months, which in the grand scheme of things is pretty much, I don't want to say pretty much permanent, but It's about as close as you're going to get when you're talking about an online game. Let's take a look at what the council might look like. There's still going to be 6 permanent seats available, with, a head seat, some permanent seats, some regular permanent members. Each neighborhood is still going to have their 2 termed seats. So we call these termed seats, or we call these untermed seats, and we call these termed seats. So there's still going to be 10 termed seats and 6 untermed seats. But within the term seats, you can attain higher ranks in order to get a longer term. So let's say these guys are really great council members. They're rank 4 and rank 3. FF might have a rank 2 member and a rank 3 member. FFJ might have a rank 1 and a rank 2, and maybe FFG has 2 rank 1, and FFR has 2 rank 2, or something like that. A is a benefit/reward for the council member who has been in the council longer. B, it kind of bridges the gap between really strong termed members and obviously strong permanent members. And C, it can reduce repetitive elections within the neighborhood. If someone has been in council for, I don't know, a year, 8 months, and it's pretty unlikely that they're going to lose an election, that can kind of reduce interest of neighbors in voting or participating in elections if it's just, okay, this person's up again, they're going to win automatically. It's like, it's going to be handed to them. So we don't want to take away their necessity to be reelected indefinitely, but changing it to a 4 or 3 month is going to reduce the repetitiveness. Whereas someone who's brand new in council is much less likely to be strong enough to be reelected, so they get a shorter term and then can potentially be replaced. So in some cases, we might have more elections than we do previously, where this would be like 2 per month instead of the current 1 per month. In other cases, we might have only 1 every 3 months, or every 2 every 3 or 4 months. Just an example, we could have really strong council members in FFG and really new ones in FFP. It just depends. Now, one thing is there cannot be 2 rank 4 members for the same neighborhood. A, to reduce the number of people that are over here in the inner council, because otherwise there could be too many, it'll be too big compared to the outer council. And then B, it makes sure that there is, some consistent elections happening in that neighborhood. If both people are only being reelected every 4 months, that's like 1 election every 2 months, which is a pretty long time within Hay Day. So we could not have 2 rank 4s here, but there can be 1 rank 4 member per neighborhood. That's completely fine. Because elections no longer happen within our neighborhood on a very consistent schedule, we no longer have to wait to fill a seat if someone resigns. So let's say this member resigns. Currently, we have to pick someone to temporarily fill it until the next FFJ election occurs, which is only at max 4 weeks away, right? But because elections are based on the member holding the seat now instead of based on the seat, an election to fill this seat can happen immediately. Some other things that we should talk about: inner versus outer. There's not many differences between the inner members and the outer members, but there are a few. Others are only co-leaders in the neighborhood that they were elected from. So even if you have a farm in every Friendly Farmers neighborhood, they're only going to be a co-leader in the one. This means that they can be demoted or kicked in the other neighborhoods, for example, if they're not keeping up with Derby. The inner members, remember, that's permanent head seats and rank 4 members. They can be co-leader everywhere. This can break ties within the council. We talked earlier about there's a special process for being promoted from rank 3 to rank 4. That special process includes a vote within the current inner council members who vote on whether or not that person can be promoted. There's not a lot of big differences, but that's pretty much the point. We still want everyone on council to have, one vote on bills um, and all of the important stuff. But the main difference is term length and then these special things in edge cases. That I forgot, or almost forgot, is that only intercouncil members can hold treasury BEMs. Because this just makes sure that the more consistent, more committed co-leaders are the ones that are able to and kind of forced to hold on to BEMs that need to be used for the neighborhood. Whereas there might not be as much trust with newer council members or as much, commitment to hold that much of their own barn storage for the neighborhood. So yeah, we're pretty much sticking with this system that is currently in use right now. The differences just include organization, flexibility, which is one thing I forgot to talk about. I specifically have written the new Constitution to make it fairly easy to amend if we wanted to remove a rank or add a rank or change the lengths. It's not going to break anything if we wanted to add a rank 5. It's not going to break anything if we wanted to make a rank 4 6 months instead of 4. So I think that's going to help. It's also flexible in the sense that we can add or remove neighborhoods without amending the document now, which is, if you've been here a while, you know that we have to amend the current document or the current Constitution every time we want to add a neighborhood, which is a whole thing. And number 3, of course, ranks. That's kind of the main new feature that anyone would actually notice. For anyone curious, if a rank 4 member wants to become a permanent member, they can, but there has to be an available seat open to do so. Currently, we have 6 permanent members, so that would not be a possibility right now. Someone would have to resign, basically, in order for that to happen, which kind of sucks for a potentially future strong 4th rank member, but we've done a lot of thinking about this, years technically of thinking about this, and we think that this rank system and limited number of permanent seats is the optimal way to deal with that problem, because we can't really continue to add permanent seats forever, because then a majority of council would be permanent, so then what's even the point? Again, we have these ranks which kind of can make strong members closer to permanent, even if there's no permanent seat available for them. And you never know. Technically, if a new neighborhood is added, that would add a new permanent seat as well. So maybe we'll just have to wait for that. All right, I think that's pretty much everything that I wanted to cover. I went over the reasons that we redid the Constitution and what the actual differences are. So feel free to read it. Although probably not for the faint of heart. It's like 7 or 8 Google Doc pages. But yeah, a lot of the current council members have read it and have put in their input, so it's been great. Anyway, yeah, let me or us know if you have questions, comments, or concerns.